The stars had never seemed so distant or so cold as they did the moment Captain Nathan Cross received the transmission. His ship, the Aurora, floated quietly near the Procyon system, far from Earth, far from everything he knew. They had been exploring, charting new worlds, looking for signs of other intelligent life. Now they had found it, and Nathan wished they hadn't. The being on his view screen was unlike anything humanity had ever imagined. It stood nearly 8 feet tall, with a body that seemed to be made of overlapping plates of dark chitin. 4 arms extended from its torso, each ending in clawed hands. Its head was triangular, dominated by compound eyes that reflected the light in strange, unsettling ways. When it spoke, the translation software rendered its clicking, buzzing language into cold, precise English. I am Diplomatic Enforcer Krath of the Vrix species, speaking for the Galactic Council. Your species has been observed. Your expansion into space has been noted. You will now receive the terms of your integration into Council governance. Nathan felt his blood run cold. The way the creature said it, there was no room for negotiation. This wasn't an invitation. It was a command. The Vrix continued without waiting for a response. Your species will submit all military assets to Council oversight. You will dismantle your weapons programs. You will cease all independent research into advanced propulsion and energy systems. A Council governor will be assigned to your homeworld to ensure compliance. You have 30 of your planetary rotations to signal your acceptance. Failure to comply will result in enforcement action. This is the way it has always been. This is the way it will be for you. The transmission ended. Nathan stared at the blank screen, his mind racing. Around him, his crew sat in stunned silence. Lieutenant Amy Peterson, his tactical officer, was the first to speak. Sir, did that thing just tell us to surrender Earth? Nathan nodded slowly. Get me a secure line to Fleet Command. Priority Alpha. They need to hear this immediately. The message reached Earth 16 hours later. President Helen Grant was in the middle of a budget meeting when her chief of staff burst into the room, his face pale. Within minutes, she was in the Situation Room beneath the White House, surrounded by the most powerful military and scientific minds on the planet. General Marcus Blake, a man who had spent 40 years in uniform and thought he had seen everything, watched the recording 3 times. Each time his jaw clenched tighter. They're serious. This isn't a joke or a misunderstanding. They expect us to just give up everything. Admiral Claire Bennett, commander of Earth's small but growing space fleet, leaned forward in her chair. She was a woman who had fought her way up through the ranks, earning every promotion through skill and determination. We know almost nothing about them. How many ships do they have? How advanced is their technology? What happens to species that refuse? Dr. Raymond Chen, Earth's leading physicist and head of several classified research programs, cleared his throat. Madam President, there's something you should know. Something that might change how we approach this situation. All eyes turned to him. President Grant gestured for him to continue. 8 years ago, we detected anomalous energy signatures coming from deep space, patterns that didn't match anything natural. We realized that we might not be alone, and that whoever was out there might not be friendly. So we started a program, Project Nightfall. It was kept secret because we didn't want to cause panic, but also because we were developing things that pushed the boundaries of known physics. General Blake frowned. What kind of things? Weapons, propulsion systems, materials that can withstand forces that would vaporize conventional armor. We've been preparing for a threat from space, even though we didn't know what form it would take. Now we know. President Grant felt a weight settle on her shoulders. She had inherited Project Nightfall from her predecessor, had been briefed on it only once, and had hoped never to need it. How far along are you? Far enough that we're not helpless, Dr. Chen replied. But if we're going to use it, we need time. That 30-day deadline gives us something to work with. Commander Jack Sullivan, head of weapons development, pulled up a holographic display. We've built prototypes of ships that don't look like anything the Council would expect. We've tested weapon systems based on principles they might not even know are possible, but we've never faced a real enemy. We don't know if it will be enough. The room fell silent. Finally, President Grant spoke. Tell me honestly, if we fight, what are our chances? Admiral Bennett didn't hesitate. If we surrender, we lose our freedom, probably forever. If we fight, we might lose everything, but at least we go down on our feet, not on our knees. And maybe, just maybe, we win. The president looked around the room, seeing the same determination in every face. These were people who had dedicated their lives to protecting Earth. Now they were being asked to risk everything. How long would it take to mobilize Project Nightfall? Dr. Chen consulted his tablet. With round-the-clock work and unlimited resources, we could have the first wave of ships operational in 20 days. We've been building in secret, but we can accelerate now. The shipyards on the far side of the moon, the facilities in the asteroid belt, they're all ready. We just need the order. President Grant stood up, her decision made. You have your order. Dr. Chen, activate Nightfall with full authorization. General Blake, put every military asset on high alert, but keep it quiet. We don't want the Council's observers to know what we're doing. Admiral Bennett, you're now in command of the Nightfall fleet. Commander Sullivan, I want every weapon you've developed tested and ready. We have 30 days to prepare for war. She paused, looking each person in the eye. And someone get Nathan Cross back here. If this is going to be a fight, I want every experienced captain we have. As the meeting broke up and people rushed to their assignments, President Grant walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over Washington. People were going about their lives unaware that everything was about to change. They didn't know that aliens existed. They didn't know that those aliens had just demanded Earth's surrender. And they definitely didn't know that their government was about to refuse and prepare for a war, unlike anything humanity had ever faced. She thought about the message she would have to deliver in 30 days. The Council expected submission. They thought humanity would bow down like all the others. They were about to learn that humans didn't know how to kneel. They would learn it the hard way. The hidden shipyard on the far side of the moon had been called Darkside Station for the past 8 years. It was a name that made the engineers smile, but the work they did there was deadly serious. Now, with the 30-day countdown ticking away, the station buzzed with activity like never before. Admiral Claire Bennett stood in the observation dome, watching as the first completed warship detached from its construction frame. The ship was beautiful in a dangerous way, all sharp angles and dark metal that seemed to drink in light rather than reflect it. They were calling it the Ares, named after the ancient god of war. It was the first of 50 ships that would form humanity's Black Armada. She's ready for trials, Admiral, said Commander Linda Harper, the station's chief engineer. Linda had been working without sleep for the past 3 days, living on coffee and determination. Her eyes were red, but they burned with fierce pride. All systems are operational. The quantum drive tests exceeded our projections. This thing can jump farther and faster than anything we've built before. Claire nodded, not taking her eyes off the ship. And the weapons? The plasma lances are calibrated. The railgun arrays are loaded. The singularity missiles are armed and waiting. Admiral, this ship can fight, and it can win. Similar scenes were playing out across the solar system. In the asteroid belt, crews were converting mining facilities into weapons platforms. On Mars, Commander Jack Sullivan supervised the installation of massive railgun batteries that could fire projectile across millions of miles with devastating accuracy. On Earth's surface, factories that had once made cars and computers now churned out fighter craft and missiles. Lieutenant Commander Amy Peterson was at Luna Base, training the first squadron of fighter pilots. The hangar was filled with sleek small craft that looked more like missiles with cockpits than traditional fighters. They were called Raptors, and they were designed for one thing: to kill ships much larger than themselves. Listen up, Amy called out to the 100 pilots assembled before her. Most of them were young, barely in their 20s, but their eyes held a hardness that came from knowing what they were preparing for. These fighters are fast, faster than anything the Council has seen. We're going to use that speed. We hit hard, we hit fast, and we disappear before they can hit back. You're not going to dogfight like in the old movies. You're going to be assassins in space. One of the pilots, a young man named Kevin Brooks, raised his hand. Commander, have we seen any Council ships? Do we know what we're up against? Amy pulled up a holographic display showing the recorded image of the Vrix vessel that had delivered the ultimatum. This is a Council scout ship. It's about 300 meters long, and according to our analysis, it's armed with energy weapons and carries a crew of about 50. The problem is their capital ships are much bigger. We're talking vessels that are kilometers long with crews in the thousands. They've been building their fleet for thousands of years. We've been building ours for less than a decade. The hangar went quiet. Then another pilot, Sarah Mills, spoke up. So we're outnumbered and outgunned. Doesn't matter. They want Earth to kneel. I say we make them regret ever finding us. The other pilots erupted in cheers. Amy smiled grimly. They had the spirit. Now she just had to make sure they had the skill to back it up. Back on Earth, Nathan Cross arrived at Fleet Command in Colorado. He had pushed his ship to its limits getting back from Procyon, and he looked exhausted. But when President Grant briefed him on the situation, the fatigue seemed to fall away. "They really think we'll just surrender," he said, shaking his head in disbelief. "They don't know us at all." "No, they don't," the president agreed. "And we're going to use that. Nathan, we're giving you command of the Vengeance, one of our new destroyers. You'll lead a fast attack group. When the shooting starts, your job is to cause chaos. Hit them where they don't expect it. Make them afraid." Nathan felt something fierce and cold settle in his chest. "I can do that, ma'am." Dr. Raymond Chen spent his days in a laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, working on the most dangerous weapon humanity had ever conceived. The Cascade device was theoretical, based on principles that most physicists thought were impossible. But Chen had proven them wrong. If we can disrupt the fabric of space-time in a localized area, we can prevent faster-than-light travel, he explained to a group of military observers. Any ship caught in the Cascade field would be trapped, unable to jump away. It would turn any battle into a fight to the finish. General Marcus Blake frowned. "How big is the field?" "With the prototype, about 5 light-years in diameter. Enough to cover our solar system and then some." "And if it doesn't work?" Chen met his eyes. "Then we'll still have our guns. But if it does work, we can trap their fleets and destroy them." As the days ticked by, the Council sent observers to monitor Earth's compliance. They arrived in small ships expecting to see humanity preparing to submit. Instead, they saw what looked like diplomatic facilities being built in orbit. They saw ships being constructed that appeared to be designed for peaceful purposes. They had no idea that every diplomatic station had weapons hidden in its structure, that every peaceful ship was actually a warship in disguise. The humans smiled and showed them exactly what they wanted to see. All the while, in the outer solar system, the real preparations continued in secret. On day 20, Admiral Bennett held a meeting with her commanders. The Black Armada was taking shape. 30 ships were operational, with 20 more coming online every day. The fighter squadrons were trained. The weapons platforms were in place. Earth was as ready as it could be. "We have 10 days left," she said, looking around the room at the faces of men and women who would lead humanity's forces into battle. "The Council expects us to signal our surrender. Instead, we're going to show them what happens when you threaten Earth. We're going to show them that humanity doesn't back down. Not now, not ever," Nathan Cross spoke up. "What's the plan, Admiral?" Claire pulled up a star chart showing their solar system and the position of the Council observation fleet. A single large ship, surrounded by 200 smaller vessels, sat at the edge of their territory, waiting for Earth's answer. On day 30, President Grant will deliver our response. The moment she does, the Council will attack. They'll try to overwhelm us with their numbers, but we're not going to wait for them to come to us. The second our answer is sent, we strike first. We hit them with everything we have. We show them that this isn't going to be the easy conquest they expect. "And if we lose?" asked Commander Sullivan. Admiral Bennett's voice was hard as steel. "Then we lose fighting. But I don't plan on losing. I plan on teaching the Council the most important lesson they've ever learned. That you don't threaten Earth unless you're ready to pay the price." Day 30 arrived with a silence that felt like the universe holding its breath. President Helen Grant sat in the Oval Office, her hands folded on the desk in front of her. The camera was ready. The transmission would be sent to the Council flagship, the Sovereign of Stars, which waited at the edge of Earth's solar system like a predator watching its prey. She had written the speech herself. It was short. It needed to be. The red light came on. She looked directly into the camera and spoke with a voice that didn't waver. "This is President Helen Grant of Earth speaking for all humanity. We have received your ultimatum. We have considered your terms. Our answer is no. Earth will not surrender. Earth will not submit. Earth will not kneel. We are free and we will remain free. If you want our world, you'll have to take it. And I promise you, the cost will be more than you're willing to pay." The transmission ended. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then across the solar system, the Black Armada dropped their stealth fields and appeared like ghosts materializing out of darkness. The Council had no warning. One moment their sensors showed empty space. The next moment, 50 human warships surrounded their fleet, weapons already hot and targeting systems locked. Admiral Claire Bennett stood on the bridge of the Defiant, her flagship positioned 10,000 kilometers from the Sovereign of Stars. She spoke 3 words, into the comm system. All units, engage. The universe exploded into light and fire. Commander Jack Sullivan's railgun platforms on Mars fired first. The tungsten rods were each 5 meters long and accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They crossed the distance to the Council fleet in seconds. The first rod hit a Council destroyer dead center. The ship simply ceased to exist, torn apart by kinetic energy that converted matter to plasma. 14 more ships died in the first barrage before the Council crews even understood. They were under attack. Lieutenant Commander Amy Peterson led her Raptor squadron in a screaming dive toward the Sovereign of Stars. The massive Council dreadnought was 3 kilometers of dark metal and glowing power conduits, bristling with weapons that could crack a planet. But it was built to fight other capital ships, not fighters that moved like angry hornets. "Echo Squadron with me," Amy transmitted. "Target the engine core. Put your missiles right down their throats." The Council point defense systems tried to track the incoming fighters. They were designed for large, slow targets. The Raptors jinked and twisted through space, moving in patterns that seemed random but were actually precisely coordinated. Council fire lashed out, missing by meters, sometimes by centimeters. Amy's fighter screamed through a gap in the defensive fire. Her targeting computer locked. She fired both of her Singularity missiles and pulled up hard, feeling the G-forces crush her into her seat despite the inertial dampeners. The missiles were experimental, theoretical, and terrifying. Each one contained a microscopic black hole held in a magnetic bottle. When the bottles broke, the black holes would be free for just a fraction of a second before evaporating. But in that fraction of a second, they would devour everything around them. Both missiles hit the Sovereign of Stars engine core simultaneously. The massive ship began to fold in on itself, its rear section crumpling like paper around a point of infinite gravity. Then the black holes evaporated and the compressed matter exploded outward. The shockwave destroyed 10 Council ships that had been too close. The Sovereign of Stars, pride of the Council fleet, simply wasn't there anymore. 3,000 Council crew members died without ever knowing what killed them. Captain Nathan Cross watched the explosion from the bridge of his destroyer, the Vengeance. He felt no joy, only a cold determination to finish what they had started. "Tactical, find me a target. Something big." His tactical officer, Lieutenant Kevin Brooks, highlighted a Council cruiser that was trying to organize a defensive formation. "That one, sir. She's broadcasting orders to the other ships. Kill it." The Vengeance accelerated, its quantum drive bending space itself to push the ship forward. The Council cruiser saw them coming and opened fire with energy beams that could melt asteroids. The beams hit the Vengeance's hull and scattered, absorbed by armor made from materials that shouldn't exist. Nathan's ship returned fire with plasma lances. The superheated gas, confined in magnetic fields and moving at orbital velocities, cut through the Council ship's shields like they weren't even there. The cruiser broke in half, trailing atmosphere and bodies. All across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. The Council had numbers and experience. Humanity had surprise, speed, and weapons that the Council couldn't defend against. The Ares, Admiral Bennett's newest capital ship, demonstrated the power of human innovation. Its quantum torpedoes didn't travel through normal space. They phased into a higher dimension, passed through enemy shields as if they weren't there, and materialized inside enemy hulls before exploding. 3 Council destroyers died without ever being hit from the outside. The Athena deployed drone swarms. Thousands of small, intelligent machines spread out like a plague, each one a flying bomb that sought enemy ships and detonated on contact. Council point defense systems overheated, trying to stop them all. Some got through. Ships died. The Odin used its experimental gravity weapons. The ship could generate localized gravity wells, pulling enemy vessels off course and crushing them with forces usually only found near black holes. A Council carrier, launching fighters to join the battle, found itself pulled into its own fighter bay as the Odin twisted gravity into a weapon. But the Council was not helpless. They had thousands of years of experience in war. Their surviving ships began to coordinate, forming defensive spheres with overlapping fields of fire. They targeted the human ships with everything they had. The destroyer Fury took a direct hit from a Council dreadnought's main gun. The beam punched through the hull and detonated the reactor. 200 human crew members died instantly. The cruiser Defiance found itself surrounded by 6 council ships. It fought like a cornered animal, destroying 3 of them before concentrated fire overwhelmed its defenses. The ship broke apart, taking its crew with it. Amy Peterson lost 8 pilots in the first 10 minutes. She heard their death screams on the comm, felt each loss like a knife in her gut, but she couldn't stop. There was no time for grief. Only the mission: all squadrons reform and attack. Hit their command ships, make them blind. The fighters regrouped and dove back into the chaos. More pilots died, but more council ships burned. Admiral Bennett watched the tactical display with cold eyes. They were winning, but the cost was higher than she had hoped. Every blip that disappeared from her screen was a ship full of people who would never go home. But she couldn't think about that now. Concentrate fire on their remaining capital ships. Take out their command structure. The human fleet obeyed. The battle had become a brutal slugging match, ships exchanging fire at point-blank range by space standards. The void filled with debris and bodies. 40 minutes after the first shot, it was over. The council fleet was gone, destroyed. 3,000 council ships reduced to wreckage and radiation, but humanity had paid a price. 10 ships lost, 3,000 humans dead. Nathan Cross looked at the aftermath and felt sick. They had won, but war was uglier than he had imagined. Admiral Bennett's voice came over the fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Defiant, well done. We've sent the council a message. They know now what it cost to threaten Earth. But this is just the beginning. They'll be back. We need to be ready. The news of the defeat reached the Galactic Council's core worlds within hours. For the first time in 10,000 years, an entire council fleet had been destroyed. Not defeated. Not driven back. Completely annihilated. The council chambers were deep in the heart of a massive space station that orbited a dying red star. The station had stood for millennia, a symbol of council power and authority. Now that authority had been challenged by a species that most council members had never even heard of until a month ago. Grand Arbiter Zulmar sat on his throne, his ancient body showing the wear of centuries. He was Horth, one of the eldest species in the galaxy, and he had led the council for 300 years. In all that time, no one had dared to defy council will. Now these humans had not only defied them, but had destroyed their ships and killed their crews. The 7 elder species gathered for an emergency session. Each had their own representative, and each had their own reaction to the news. Diplomatic enforcer Krath of the Vrix clicked his mandibles in fury. This cannot stand. These primitives must be crushed immediately. We must respond with overwhelming force. 5 battle fleets, no 10. We will reduce their world to ash, and use it as a lesson to any other species that thinks to resist us. The Kelthir representative, a massive crystalline being named Solthex who communicated through light pulses, flashed in disagreement. Caution is advised. These humans destroyed 200 ships in less than an hour. They possess weapons technology we have not encountered. We should study them before committing more forces. The Yulan delegate, an aquatic creature floating in a tank of pressurized liquid, spoke through a translator. Her voice was calm and analytical. I have reviewed the battle data transmitted by the few escape pods we recovered. The human tactical doctrine is unlike anything in our records. They use speed and deception. They strike from unexpected angles. They employ weapons based on principles we have not explored. They are dangerous. Solmar listened to the arguments, his old eyes seeing deeper than the others. He had lived long enough to recognize something important was happening. The humans were not just another species to be absorbed into the Council's domain. They were something new, something unpredictable. How many ships can we commit? He asked the military coordinator. 5 full battle fleets, Grand Arbiter. 3,000 vessels. It will take time to assemble them, but once gathered, no force in the galaxy could stand against them. Zulmar made his decision. Assemble the fleets. Send them to the human home system. But I want intelligence first. Send scouts, fast ships that can observe and report. I want to know what we are truly facing. Back on Earth, President Helen Grant addressed the world. The public now knew about the aliens, about the ultimatum, and about the battle. The footage had been shared across every network, every screen, every device. Humanity watched their ships fight and die in the black ocean of space. We won the first battle, she said, her voice steady but grave. But the war is not over. The Council will return with more ships. We must be ready. Every factory, every shipyard, every person must contribute to our defense. This is not just Earth's fight. This is humanity's fight. We will not surrender. We will not submit. We will be free. The response was immediate. Volunteers flooded recruitment centers. Scientists worked around the clock on new weapons and defenses. Engineers pushed the limits of what was possible. Humanity, faced with an enemy that wanted to enslave them, united in a way it never had before. Admiral Claire Bennett knew they had maybe weeks before the Council returned. She pushed production to the breaking point. 50 ships became 70, then 90. The Black Armada grew every day. Dr. Raymond Chen completed the Cascade device. The massive machine was installed on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons hidden beneath kilometers of ice. If the Council came back, Chen would trap them. No escape, no retreat, they would finish it here. Commander Jack Sullivan developed new weapons. The railguns on Mars were upgraded to fire faster and hit harder. He designed minefields that could be deployed around Earth's orbit, invisible until they detonated. He created missiles that could track targets across millions of miles and penetrate any shield. Lieutenant Commander Amy Peterson trained new pilots every day. Her squadron had lost 8 members in the first battle, and each loss hurt. But she couldn't stop. More pilots meant more fighters. More fighters meant a better chance of survival. Captain Nathan Cross took his destroyer on patrol missions, hunting for Council scouts. His crew had become expert at detecting the faint energy signatures of Council stealth ships. They had found 3 so far and destroyed them before they could report back. But Nathan knew they couldn't catch them all. The Council was watching, learning. 4 weeks after the first battle, Council scouts returned with their reports. The Council convened again to review the intelligence. The humans have expanded their fleet, the military coordinator reported. We estimate they now have 90 capital ships, with more under construction. They have fortified their home system with weapons platforms and defensive installations. They appear to be preparing for a siege. Krath buzzed angrily. 90 ships against 3,000. The numbers are meaningless. We will overwhelm them. But Solthex flashed a warning in lights. The First Fleet also had superior numbers. The First Fleet was destroyed. Do not underestimate these creatures. The Yulon delegate added her analysis. The humans fight differently than we do. We fight with honor and established tactics. They fight to win, using any method necessary. They are not bound by our traditions or our rules of engagement. This makes them extremely dangerous. Zolmar considered everything. Part of him wanted to simply leave the humans alone, to quarantine their system and avoid further losses. But he knew the other species in the galaxy were watching. If the Council showed weakness, if they backed down from a single species, it would embolden others to resist. The entire structure of Galactic Order could collapse. Assemble the 5 fleets, he ordered, but they will not attack in the same way. We will use our numbers to surround the human system. We will cut off their escape routes. We will bombard their worlds from a distance until their defenses collapse. Only then will we close in for the final assault. The order went out. 5 battle fleets, each containing 600 ships, began to move toward Earth. They came from different regions of Council space, converging on a single target. 3,000 warships, the largest force the Council had assembled in centuries, all aimed at one small blue world. The humans detected them coming. Long-range sensors picked up the massive energy signatures as the fleets entered human space from multiple directions. Admiral Bennett stood on the bridge of the Defiant and looked at the tactical display. Red icons filled the screen, approaching from 5 different vectors. It was exactly what she had feared. The Council was not going to make the same mistake twice. She opened a channel to President Grant. Madam President, they're here. 5 fleets, approaching from different directions. They'll arrive in 6 days. The President's voice was calm despite the news. Can we win? Bennett looked at the numbers. 90 human ships against 3,000 Council vessels. The odds were impossible, but she remembered the first battle. She remembered what human courage and human ingenuity had accomplished. I don't know, ma'am, but we're going to fight, and we're going to make them pay for every inch of space they take. The Council fleets arrived like a tide of darkness washing over the solar system. They came from 5 directions, each fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel at the edge of human space. 3,000 ships, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight, advancing on Earth with the patience of predators that knew their prey had nowhere to run. Admiral Claire Bennett watched them come. Her fleet was positioned in defensive layers around Earth, using the moon, the orbital stations, and the asteroid belt as anchor points. It was a strategy born of necessity. They couldn't outrun the enemy. They couldn't outgun them, but they could make every meter of space cost the Council dearly. "They're not rushing in," observed Commander Linda Harper from her station. "They learned from last time." "They're smart," Bennett agreed. "But we're smarter. Activate the first line of defense." In the asteroid belt, thousands of rocks that had been quietly retrofitted with engines and weapons systems came online. They didn't look like weapons. They just looked like asteroids, cold and dead and harmless. The Council fleet moving through the belt had no warning before the rocks suddenly accelerated toward them. The first Council ship to die never saw it coming. A 10-meter asteroid struck it at orbital velocity, punching through the hull like it was paper. The ship exploded and the debris became shrapnel that damaged 3 nearby vessels. The Council fleet adapted quickly. Ships broke formation to target the killer asteroids, destroying them with energy weapons before they could close. But there were thousands of asteroids, and while the Council was distracted by the rocks, they weren't watching for other threats. Lieutenant Commander Amy Peterson led her fighter wing through the confusion. The Raptors used the asteroids as cover, hiding their energy signatures in the chaos. When they struck, it was from angles the Council never expected. "Gold Squadron, target their carriers. Don't let them launch more fighters." Her pilots obeyed without hesitation. They had trained for this. They had lost friends in the first battle, and they fought now with a cold fury that made them terrifyingly effective. Council carriers, massive ships designed to deploy hundreds of fighters, found themselves under attack from craft so small and fast that point defense systems couldn't track them all. Amy put 2 missiles into a carrier's launch bay. The explosions rippled through the ship's interior, detonating fuel and ammunition. The carrier broke apart, taking 200 fighters with it, but the Council had learned. They deployed their own fighters in defensive screens, forcing the Raptors to fight through clouds of enemy craft before reaching the capital ships. Dogfights erupted across the asteroid belt, human and Council fighters weaving between rocks and debris in a deadly dance. Sarah Mills, one of Amy's best pilots, found herself pursued by 3 Council fighters. She dove toward a spinning asteroid, using its gravity to slingshot around it. 2 of the enemy fighters couldn't match her maneuver and slammed into the rock. The third one stayed on her tail. "A little help here," she called over the comm. Kevin Brooks came out of nowhere, his fighter's guns blazing. The Council fighter exploded in a brief flash of light. "You owe me a drink," he transmitted. "If we survive this, I'll buy you a whole bar." Captain Nathan Cross commanded the Vengeance from a position near Earth's moon. His destroyer was part of the second defensive line, waiting for the Council fleet to push deeper into the system. He watched the battle in the asteroid belt and knew it was only delaying the inevitable. The Council had too many ships. "Sir, enemy fleet Delta is breaking through the asteroid field," his tactical officer reported. 600 ships heading straight for us." Nathan felt his heart rate slow, felt the cold calm of combat settle over him. "All ships, this is Vengeance. Prepare to engage. Show them what close quarters fighting means." The human destroyers and cruisers didn't wait for the enemy to come to them. They accelerated to meet the Council fleet head-on, a move so aggressive that it caught the Council commanders off guard. The 2 forces collided in a maelstrom of fire and metal. The Vengeance targeted a Council battleship 3 times its size. Nathan's weapons officer fired everything at once: plasma lances, railgun rounds, quantum torpedoes, all focused on a single point on the enemy's hull. The battleship's shields flickered and collapsed. The hull cracked open, venting atmosphere and bodies. But the Vengeance paid for its kill. Council ships surrounded them, hitting them from multiple angles. Nathan felt his ship shake with each impact. "Hull breach on deck 3, sealing bulkheads," his damage control officer reported, her voice tight with stress. "Keep firing. We're not done yet." Commander Jack Sullivan watched from his command post on Mars. His railgun batteries had been firing non-stop for 2 hours, shooting projectiles across millions of miles to hit Council ships with devastating accuracy. But even his weapons had limits. "Commander, we're running low on ammunition," one of his officers said. "At this rate, we'll be empty in 6 hours." Jack looked at the tactical display. The battle was spreading across the entire solar system now. The Council was pushing from all sides, slowly grinding down Earth's defenses through sheer weight of numbers. Then make every shot count, target their command ships, cut off their coordination. On Earth, President Helen Grant sat in the command center beneath the White House. watching the battle unfold on massive screens. Each icon that blinked out represented a ship full of people who had died defending their world. The losses were mounting. 20 human ships destroyed, 30, 40. But the Council was bleeding too. For every human ship that died, they took 5 or 6 Council vessels with them. The enemy had started with 3,000 ships. Now they had closer to 2,000. The problem was, Earth was running out of ships faster than the Council was. Admiral Bennett knew they were losing. The math was brutal and unavoidable, but she also knew that Dr. Raymond Chen's Cascade device was ready. It was time to use humanity's final surprise. Dr. Chen, this is Admiral Bennett. Activate the device. Trap them here with us. On Europa, deep beneath the ice, the Cascade device powered up. It was the size of a city block, a maze of exotic matter and quantum processors that bent the laws of physics in ways that should be impossible. Dr. Chen had spent years building it, and he had no idea if it would actually work. It worked. The device sent out a wave of energy that spread across the solar system at the speed of light. When it hit the Council ships, their faster-than-light drives simply stopped functioning. The quantum fields that allowed them to jump through space collapsed. Every Council ship, every human ship, everything in the solar system was suddenly trapped. No retreat. No escape. The battle would be fought to the finish. Grand Arbiter Zolmar, watching the battle from his station thousands of light years away, received the news and felt something he hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. The humans had trapped his fleets. If they lost, there would be no survivors. No one to report back. 3,000 ships and millions of crew members, all at risk. But in the solar system, Admiral Bennett felt a grim satisfaction. The Council had come to destroy Earth. Now they would learn what it meant to fight an enemy that had nothing left to lose. All ships, this is Defiant. The Council is trapped here with us. Let's show them why that was a mistake. Attack, hold nothing back. Make them regret ever hearing the name of Earth. The human fleet charged forward, every ship pushing their drives to maximum, every weapon firing. They had been fighting defensively for hours. Now they went on the offensive, and the ferocity of their assault shocked the Council forces. The battle became chaos. Ships grappled at point-blank range. Fighters swarmed like locusts. Explosions lit up the void. And through it all, humanity fought with a desperate courage that turned the tide.